AM4INFRA is a project that tries to get hands-on experience in the difficult concept of asset management.
And we started this project 2 years ago just to learn from each other by getting a kind of common language and a mutual approach for the asset management framework.
It's an opportunity to develop a new way of managing our assets cross-border, across modes, and within the existing environment of asset management in itself.
We talk a lot about common language, we talk a lot about optimizing risk, cost and performance, but how to do it, how to get people in the Conference of European Directors, basically all operators and managers of assets, to understand what it is about.
Living Lab is about getting all of the different infrastructure providers in an area. So instead of looking at one bit of road that stops and it starts again, you're looking at that corridor, that complete journey for your customer from end to end. This has been part of the Conference of European Directors of Roads, known as CEDR, and we've been hosting the Executive Board meeting. What we're doing today is something really different. We're actually involving the members of the Executive Board in a really important decision then that they will take when this final report is published. They will understand exactly the application of the Living Lab, what it is all about, and how that could be applied in their own National Road Authority.
The Living Lab in Rome was a lovely day to share our results on the two deliverables of the Work Package 3, the Asset Data Dictionary and the Business Blueprint of an information system about a system that shared the asset data information.
So 4 different players, but a sole KPI, which is the level of service expected for a whole road stretch, including sections managed by different players.
We have just planned another meeting with the stakeholder to keep deeper, to analyze a possible project pilot to share our information between different agencies.
In the Eindhoven Living Lab, we had a focus on the cross-border issues. And what we actually noticed is that for some issues, you just need each other. You cannot resolve those problems just looking at your own area or your own organizational context. So, well, there was an absolute need to discuss these things. And discussing these issues, these cross-border issues, we also noticed that language is really important and knowing each other. So knowing the faces behind the persons responsible for those issues and be aware of the terminology and the language used, even though we speak Dutch on both sides of the border.
The M4 is part of Highways England network, but it also joins us up with Wales, and part of that road is managed by the Welsh Assembly. So actually what we're doing is getting a good amount of collaboration and cooperation between those authorities to make sure that we are trying to manage these assets in a more effective, joined up way.
There were different aspects which are linked to your assets, for instance about risk, how you handle risk, and connected with the expectations of the users of the network and the financial aspect. That was very interesting. How mature you are as an organization regarding digital innovations and things like that. It's really coming a lot. And we had a very good presentation also about the project of AM25 and here in London, and that was too very interesting for us.
And what you saw is with the dialogue sheet, you saw people sitting together, and then the common language was very difficult because everybody understands a term differently. Quite the same, but just a little bit differently, and then what you see is the dialogue starts, and then we start to understand each other, and it was very successful, very energized, very positive, and also a lot of laughs, and that humor helps to open up this dialogue and the sense that I want to relate with you.
So what I get from this and what we've really achieved in Learning Lab is that we've started communicating with those, with the relevant people for this, and also we have identified some drawbacks and some challenges that we both have, and where we also have a common language. So that common language was one of the main themes that came out, and how communication is quite important, and that collaboration is the way forward.
You know, wondering, okay, well, how would AM4INFRA be the Magna Carta, the European Magna Carta of asset management for infrastructure in the future? Maybe we haven't got there yet, but it's certainly, you know, very interesting that we've started to form more of a common language, more of an exchange between the different organisations, between the different stakeholders. So at least we can start to understand things, because we're not necessarily all trying to do things in exactly the same way. That's probably too big a target to achieve. But at least we can start to understand how we are working together and what the challenges facing all the different stakeholders are.
The Living Labs are kicking off, so this will be the setting in which successive meetings will take place, and obviously they then will focus in more specific details. This was covering it all. And I think in the next months, and I think even in the years, this Living Lab setting will continue to go. And then from that you will see the momentum building, and more Living Labs I expect to emerge, to give that framework for dialogue. And that's how we make a difficult term like asset management tangible for the operators and managers of infrastructure.